Hey guys, what's up? It's Danny with D-Money Entertainment, bringing you another War Thunder video. Today we're going to be talking about the low-tier Italians, and what that has to do with is mostly, well, really is what it is. It's Reserve 1.0 up to 1.7. Nothing really too spectacular when it comes to the Italians. I found them a little frustrating when I was going through them initially. A lot of that stems from various issues that have to do with design flaws. You don't really feel like you're a star on the battlefield ever. They're going to be a little bit frustrating for you new players. Anybody who's learning the Italian tree and has gone from, like, let's say the Germans or the Americans, which are the two main forces that people tend to pick, you're going to have a hard time finding your place. And what seems to be weird is that the Italians, they get a lot of their tech from the Germans. They learned a lot from the Germans, but the thing is that they have a clash of ideals. So what it feels more like is that they took different designs that they thought were going to be great and just kind of meshed them together. And that caused a little bit of issues, it seems, and you'll find the frustrations will kind of stem throughout the entire first tier of the Italian tree. So we're going to talk about a few of the issues, and we're going to go through the usefulness and really just the way that you should go about playing as the Italians, because it's going to be rough for you at first. You'll figure it out, but we're going to go ahead and talk about that a little bit more today. The main thing that you want to consider is going to be the armament. A lot of the problems you're going to have, like for example, this plane, the BA-65, has 12.7 millimeter machine guns on it, which are basically 50 cals. And you can see, like, you have a hard time shooting things down even with this, and it's going to be an overlying theme that you're going to feel underpowered no matter what you're going up against. And it's gonna come up to these points where you're gonna roll up to somebody's tank and you're gonna get yourself in a good position. Then you're gonna end up putting round after round after round into them, and you're not going to really put too much damage into them. You're not going to cause too much effect, and that's going to be a little bit frustrating. So, and that's an overlying theme. The best cannon that they have in the game is the 47 millimeter cannon, and this cannon really is not. It's not powerful enough to deal with a lot of what you're going to come across. And the other thing is that the high explosive rounds, which have been buffed in recent days, the high explosive rounds, there's no point in carrying them because they don't have enough explosive filler to do really any damage to anything at all. So, like, for example, if I'd had a high explosive chambered into that, I would have took that plane out right there. But the problem is that there's no reason to bring that with you. And that's really kind of apparent when you get into skirmishes with various tanks. Right here I'm going up against an Su-122, which is amazing that I'm even facing a Su-122 in a tier 1 match. I got up-tiered, obviously, but that's going to happen sometimes. And a lot of what you're going to go up against is going to be German tech. And realistically, in the early tier, Germany takes the cake. They win. They're the best tanks in tier 1. And your best case scenario is to land a very well aimed, precise shot. In a lot of cases, it's not going to matter if you're aiming in the right vital area. And a lot of times, you'll go for those vital areas, and you'll try to ammo rack or take out the crew. And the underwhelming power of the Italian guns, it just really shows you that they had a hard time with their design. The 47 millimeter cannon is the best one. It's on the M13, M14. It also comes in the L40, which is a really cool tank destroyer. And it's your best bet at getting penetration. You're almost never going to get a single shot kill. It's going to be kind of working on the enemy. You also are going to want to avoid sniping as much as you can. Sniping is a bad thing to do. Your best penetration is at 0 meters is 55 millimeters of armor. Most tanks have more than that. And if you're at a distance like this distance here, I'm probably only getting about 19 millimeters of penetration. So it's just not something you want to mess with. It's not something you want to play around with. I would avoid sniping completely altogether. It's a waste of time. Unless you're sniping like an AA gun back in their spawn or something like that, you're really just you're wasting your time. You're not gonna be able to get the kills that you would with most low tier Americans or Russians. It's just a different gameplay. The only thing you really would have going for you is going to be the low profile in a lot of these tanks. The L40, for example, which is this one, it's almost swallowed by the bushes. And if you're somebody like me who puts decorative bushes on your tank, you're going to be even more hidden. but that's your only advantage. At that point, you really can just hide. And that's really where the next part of this video kind of comes into play, because your best bet is going to be to hide. You're not very maneuverable. You see right here, I'm having a hard time getting over just a small hill. And the engines are not powerful enough to get you up these things. You don't have enough traction to move around, so it's going to be slow going in a lot of cases. And you really need to take your time and plan ahead on where you're going to go. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself in a bad spot. I think that the biggest benefit to the Italian tech tree is the size of their vehicles. And what you'll notice is that you're able to put yourself in tactically advantageous positions based on the size of your vehicle. For example, right now I'm sitting inside of a shadow on the side of a cliff. I don't think he saw me, he probably didn't, but I was able to take the time to place my shot right in the mantlet, which is, and from that angle, was the only option for me to actually hit the guy. And if he had noticed me, I'd have been creamed right away. So you want to be able to use the landscape to your advantage, hide in the bushes, hide on the side of a rock face, hide in the trees, use the cover around you in the best way that you can so that you're able to keep yourself hidden. A hidden Italian tank is a deadly Italian tank. And that kind of brings us into the next part of what's advantageous. You're never going to be the spearhead. You're never going to be the guy that leads the rest of your team into the objective, and you really should never try to put yourself in that position. The Italians are not meant for, at least early tier Italians, are not meant for being the front of the force. They're not meant for being the brutes. The best thing that you can do as an Italian player is be a support player. If you can divert the enemy's attention, or if you're able to distract them long enough that the enemy pulls their focus away from maybe a choke point, or if you can protect a road, tuck yourself on the side, like in an urban map, tuck yourself on the side next to a building and use the size of your vehicle and really the lack of your maneuverability to your advantage, and put yourself tucked away in a little corner and just guard a road. Guard the side of an objective, maybe watch the flank. Never put yourself in a position that is going to be super important in the focus of the battle. Watching your team's flanks and keeping them safe from behind or the side is going to be the best use for you, because they're not going to be able to count on you to run into the middle of the battle and start running and gunning. You're not going to be able to do that. So take advantage of the size and just keep watch over your friendlies. If you can take time to place your shots really carefully, let's say into the mantlet. A lot of the early German tanks don't have very thick armor on their mantlet, right at their gun. If you can place your shot right into that, you can disable a gunner or even knock out half of the crew in one go. We were talking a little bit earlier about the size of your tank as well, and this is a great example of when the size of your tank can be used to your advantage. In this situation here, if I had moved forward and kept going up over this hill, I would have put myself in a bad position, because this Panzer II out in the middle of the field wouldn't be able to get a clear shot on me, and I would have been vulnerable because I don't have much protection. So all you got to do, he can't see me, he can't hit me because of my low profile. So I used the fact that I'm not very tall. I got myself right up to the razor's edge to where I could put these rounds right over the side of the hill, and you can see all his rounds. He doesn't know where I'm shooting him from. He just knows I'm hitting him from this direction. And what this creates is an opportunity for you to really take your time to work on the enemy. Take your time to place your shots in ways to where you're going to disable the transmission, you can knock out the gunner, maybe destroy their barrel, and they have to take time to repair their tank, but they're also more vulnerable in the middle of the map. So to kind of recap on what we talked about already in the video, because we know that we're not the strongest powered vehicle out there. We're not the spearhead of the team. What we can do, though, is we can protect the flanks, keep an eye on our friendlies as they're advancing, utilize the size of our vehicle to put ourselves in a tactical position, and really take advantage of the areas of the map that aren't being monitored the most by the enemy. Once you learn what the capabilities are of the underpowered guns that you have provided to you. It really opens up a vast door of versatility and utilization for the Italian tree. But the best thing about the Italians is really they are a fun nation to run. I really did have some frustrations with them at first because you do have to find your place and you need to find where you're useful. But when it came to the vehicles, in the end, the awkwardness of them and the very strange mechanization of them and how unique they all are really ends up being a fun and good time. Things like the AS-42, which is basically an AA gun with armor-piercing rounds at its disposal. It's a lot of fun just to chase around tanks through urban areas or even maneuver yourself off to the side so you can get these kills and you know you're frustrating them. But the other hand, going into now is going to be survivability. One thing that the Italians are really bad about is survivability. There's not a lot of protection on even their medium tanks. There's not really sloped armor. There's not angled armor. They're very bulky. They're very edgy. There's a lot of areas that the enemy can use to penetrate and take out your crew. A lot of times you're going to have things like 50 caliber, really any high chambered machine gun is good enough to get into the majority of the vehicles. There's a lot of cases where you're going to just have a quick spray on something like your L40 or I forget, or your little tiny tanks, the L33. If you get a spray from like a 50 caliber gun, it's over for you, and you got to take that into consideration. You really do not have a high survivability vehicle. It's very easy to take you out. A lot of cases, it just takes this very, very low caliber round to end you and to put you in your place. And you need to always keep that in mind. However, vehicles are not the only thing. The ground vehicles are not the only thing in the Italian tech tree. We also have several really unique planes. Now, the thing about the aviation in Tier 1 of the Italian tree is that realistically your best plane is going to be the German-made Stuka. We all know the Stuka. We all know the capabilities of the Stuka. It's a very versatile aircraft when it comes to ground attack. It's mildly good with dogfighting other sluggish aircraft. But the good thing is that the Germans really did help out the Italians early on in 1940 when they signed the pact with Japan and Italy and Germany. When the three of them got together, Germany really did lend a big hand to the production and the design of weaponry and planes. That's not to say that the Italians didn't go their own path. Things like the BA-65, which is really a sluggish, bulky, awkward plane. So it's not that bad to run in something like Air RB because you get an air spawn and you're able to start your climb a lot earlier than the other aircraft, so you can boom and zoom, albeit not boom and zoom very well. But then when we start talking about the bombers are underpowered with their engines. They are like flying potatoes, but they do carry a larger bomb load than most bombers in Tier 1. So you're able to drop a whole lot more on like Air RB. You're able to destroy more than just one base in most cases. Utilization in ground RB is not very high because you're not normally going to be bombing from a high altitude. Now, the bombs do work pretty well. The plane just flies super slow, so you're an easy target for anti-air, and that's never fun for anybody who's flying in a plane. They do handle poorly, but they're not the worst out there. I mean, the French bombers are definitely worse in Tier 1. You're not going to have as bad of a time flying the Italians as you would flying the French. And we'll make another video talking about them in the future as well. But the bombers, if you put some time into them, you start to understand them, you'll have a much easier time. A lot of the Italian tree is just finding your place. I would recommend just running the Stuka overall. That's probably your best plane for you to use in the low tier. I mean, we're not even talking about fighters right now at all. We're mostly talking about ground RB. And in that case, the Stuka and the BA-65, the benefit for the BA-65 is that its bombs almost seem to get ejected straight down. So it's like they shoot straight down at the enemy, and that can really help you out in a lot of cases. So the aviation's not poor, it's not great, but it's worth definitely sticking your hand in the water. Well, guys, that pretty much wraps up the Italian video I had for you today. It means a whole lot to me that you guys support me and watch the things that I have on here on the YouTube channel, because it really, y'all are the reason I do all this. I really have been enjoying putting together the videos, and I think now that I'm going to start doing little narrated stuff to where we can start talking about the different trees and start exploring the different countries that we have, because there's a lot to do in War Thunder. There's a lot to learn and explore, and it's really a game for everybody. It means so much to me that you guys watch my videos, and just thank you so much for all your support. And I hope to see you guys here real soon in the next one. I'll be putting one up here real soon, so thank you for everything.